All right, welcome back. Now let's discuss security matters. As the year draws to a close, some institutions of government have been reeling out their achievements for the year, and it's almost impossible to carry out an assessment of the year without a review of the nation's security system. At a monthly conference with senior police officers, the Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu, said over 6,500 high-profile suspects were arrested this year, while it recovered thousands of different firearms and ammunition. The force also said it rescued 945 kidnapped victims, ascribing all the successes to the operatives of Operation Puff Adder. It has definitely been a tough year for Nigeria's security forces, who have worked tirelessly to combat the Boko Haram insurgency, banditry, kidnapping, and all other forms of crime. Joining me now to discuss this is Roy Okidieve, who is a security analyst and a security consultant. Thank you very much for joining us on the program, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
You look at, let's just have your own review now of the security situation over this 2019. Would you say it's been tough for security agencies?
Well, there have been intricacies. Let's say we look at it from the military perspective. You look at it from the other agencies' perspective.
And you're
like
from
the DSS,
you're a retired military officer.
The DSS, the EFCC, combating fraud and all that. Then you look at the police system. You know, if you look at the military perspective, you understand that the whole hue and cry of the military indulging in police duties have actually beginning to toe on the line of obedience to status quo. The Chief of Army Staff, the Chief of Defense Staff, they have come out to try to put into capsulating their activities, not to go beyond their responsibilities, you know. And if we look at the other agencies, you know, I've been hitting on it that the control of funds, especially monitoring by EFCC and the DSS manipulating intelligence to the necessary agencies to capitalize and attack insurgents and all that. You know, that correlation must be built up. You know, we had the issue of the Apex command and control for the DSS. Yeah. This man will stay, this man will not be there. We also had that also for the military, where some military officers were found wanting for criminal activities. You know, we had this issue of the military men in the forest zones not being taken care of, their medicals not being... Those were major distractions. You know, later we now had the Police Service Commission coming against the IG, and they were trying to do power tussle, who we approve promotion and all of that. You know, after all the hue and cry, we now see state governors becoming involved in fighting crime. That was where we started seeing arrests of all these local government chairmen involved in banditry, with all these royal fathers, the obas, the chiefs, the MIs being probed, their activities being queried, how legitimate your relationship is with the banditry activities in your area, you know. And the social media, the almighty social media played its role to give a good or bad situation by maybe when there's an event, they will pick pictures and videos of past events, even from other countries, and attach it with a narrative that goes similar with the narrative of Nigeria, and just bust it on air. And before you know, people start killing themselves. There's mayhem, there's crisis, there's retaliation. And the whole agencies came against the social media, and there's this fear now that mind what you post. You know, and I would like to say that it is not easy to just give a blanket mark and say, well, we have handled our security situation very well, because we are only doing a kind of emergency response.
Now, certainly, I mean, no doubt at all. You look at what is going on, you certainly cannot say we've handled our security situation very well. Let's talk about the issue of kidnapping now. The Inspector General of Police reporting that we had about 945 cases of kidnappings in the country. Fact is, that would be the official figure. Unofficially, it definitely would be higher than that, because some of these kidnappings go unreported. And you look at 2019, you could say we've had an unprecedented number of kidnappings this year. And why do you think, you know, the level of kidnappings really shot up this year, 2019? Because it got so terrible at some point that the police too became helpless until Operation Puff Adder was set up.
Yeah. You see, for kidnapping, there are different kinds of kidnapping. We have that for vendetta, we have that for rituals, we have that for ransom, and so many other kinds of kidnapping. Some are organized crime.
We've had
some
so
are
much
spontaneous crime. Okay. Now, if you look at the way the EFCC and the financial crime, the BVN, and all those cash control came on board, you understand that it became uncomfortable for people to just move money to support banditry and terrorism and all that. So up north, rate of kidnapping on that Kaduna, Abuja axis, and so many other axes where kidnapping became a daily affair. Up to the time it started happening to government officials, and when they went to the president's village to pick somebody from there, that was the height of it, And if you look at all those kidnap cases, the kidnappers themselves had ability and capability to manage our communication space, because some of them have devices that cannot be tracked. And just recently, some people are being caught and they see that they have devices, actually criminals, that could deter you from tracking a mobile phone that was stolen and is being sold. They know how to use a device on it. The vehicle that is being carried and the victim is inside, they can disable the tracking system. And when we saw that all of this is going electronic, it fell down to the fact that we have said earlier that if you don't make the agencies electronic smart to the extent of world-class standard, prevalent standard, then it's going to be difficult. So kidnapping went up all those ways. And when you saw that kidnapping became a business, Nigeria made it an entrepreneurial business. And it became difficult to actually arrest a kidnapper. Why? The kidnapper is now aware that once you have all these monies at your disposal, you have to compromise the security agencies, you have to compromise the judicial system. So while they are at it and they are making profit, they become dons and they begin to settle all of these agency personnel. We have seen high-profile kidnappers being arrested. And even Evans, when he was arrested, he said he had been arrested in another state before and he was released. And when Wadume was arrested, we all here were shouting, oh, this brought a clash between the army and the police. And a committee was set up, a presidential committee. So it should be given expedited action to see the end of it. And everything just went into the cold. So we are seeing situations where there is an issue with generating enough evidence to actually make these people culpable, or there is an infringement on the judicial system themselves, which have not been able to put themselves together to actually have expedited judicial process for certain special cases. These are cases that are becoming like a kill for young people to say, I want to be like that guy. I want to be like this guy. So these guys are alive. They are talking to the press. They are even suing the government for holding them in detention. So I think we should look at that. Then if you go down southeast, you can see that kidnapping started coming up just towards these elections, the re-elections that came up. That means opportunities.
Even though kidnapping actually started.
Yeah, opportunities
most people actually started from the south.
We are giving to them to have arms. Then they were also giving superiority over the local policing system.
Okay, but you look at it now with the situation of things now. Do you think the security agencies now have a grip of the situation? I'm talking about kidnapping now. Do you think they have firm control over it? Because we still see kidnapping.
They don't. We don't. We have not even scratched the tip of addressing kidnapping. Let me tell you one of it. Number one is data control. Once you have adequate data control, you will be able to understand where certain persons are, who they are, what they do, okay? And an agency personnel, whether any of the agency, even to immigration, even to ordinary last mile person, supposed to be able to detect who I am 5 years ago, what I was doing on their system, even in their car, just seeing my number plates. They should be able to we need to synchronize. All of my details are with the passport, immigrations, they are with the bank where I have an account, they are with where I take medical treatments. Everything I do that is online, that is generated under a professional body, should have a detail sharing
there
system.
Should be like a central
so once
database.
that data sharing system is not there, it cannot be synchronized, then each agency cannot lift my trail. They can't get my trail. I passed through the airport from Abuja to Lagos. You can't get my trail. You can't tell me what did I go and do in Abuja last week. I will immediately be cowed to answer the next question. So we can't handle data. We can't deliver on kidnapping. Another thing we missed is the unpoliced space. We have a lot of space that are unpoliced. I could take you, for an example, to somewhere, and you will just see a lot of people that are detained also. And you can imagine a kidnapper calling to say, bring this person, your people, they call you. And those kind of embarrassment, because those unpoliced states have citizens living there. So community policing, there's paucity of control. Because if you have adequate community policing, you could be able to have intelligence direction and action point on intelligence. Not that somebody will come and give you information and tomorrow, you just notice now that the Boko Haram are attacking the Fulani herdsmen, and they are saying it's the Fulani herdsmen that are reporting their locations. So when we need community policing, we should have people adequately placed. If I tell you the volume of Nigerian veterans that have left the army, that are disciplined, organized, and educated, that have spread around this country, I have their data. The Military Pension Board has their data. So the Veterans Affairs Department has their data. This kind of community, you could have that spread and generate something from it. So we don't have that control of unpoliced states. Another area where we lack, the last one, so we will not be giving a lecture, is the judiciary. Because if I see an example of someone that did a crime and the person is still manipulating justice, then I will begin to learn how that person is manipulated. I tell you, so many criminals now are trying to understand what has Evans done that is still there. You know, so many are trying to understand what did this Wadume guy just do and everywhere. So they use those as training skills to build their mandates and continue to perpetrate crime.
I'm very happy you cited those two examples, because I mean, surprisingly, these cases are just in the cooler. We don't hear anything at all. The justice system, I don't know. Let's but I'm very happy you cited that example. Very quickly now, because we have to end this segment. Let's talk about Boko Haram. I mean, this year we saw ISWAP coming up, and of course upping their attack now, especially against military targets. Even though it's sort of gone down a bit, it appears their activities now are really aimed at countries like Chad, Niger, because we've seen a series of attacks by ISWAP in those countries. But do you think that somehow we are beginning to manage to deal with the Boko Haram insurgency?
Yeah, let me say that a lot of attention was drawn towards the neglect of the military fighting troops. A lot of attention was drawn towards the criminality of the military hierarchy after some of the generals were incriminated, and that money that got missing, that the soldiers ran away with, and the general was called in. You know, so it became tentative to now assume that there is control in the discipline and responsibility of senior officers. So that we cascade down. So that have gone down to where the fighting troops now have the confidence to say, okay, there is a backup from the government for us to go ahead and do what we need to do. So you are seeing a lot of scoring of points. Then I think the military also upped their game with the use of the air fighting troops. You know, the Air Force was up on its game to identify gathered areas and begin to attack them. Then the joint task force too that we have with sister countries, you know, it scored a lot of points for our sake. Then, you know, after that last kidnap of those girls from the school, we brought a negotiating team to see how they can negotiate. So I think there's a lot going on under the table that is not for the civilian space. And I like what is going on, okay? Then let's look at correlation. If you look at the DSS, the EFCC, okay, you will see that some of their activities, especially to track international funding, especially the NGOs. There are NGOs that came to do the right thing, okay? But there are some that are moles that came in to actually sieve funds to all of these guys. And the government put their track on those NGOs, and they began to attack them even on the media, and that brought a kind of check. So, but generally, I will not be happy to say this, but it is a fact which I've done in my research that we should be ready for technological attacks. We should be ready for biological attacks. Why? Because they can't just let go like that and say they are now attacking Chad, they are now attacking Cameroon. They will be liking their attacks to beat our already managed system. And we are not ready for biological warfare. We are not ready for technology. If I tell you we are not ready, it means that the government are not being able to push in enough funds to provide the right combating equipment.
And it's very important. One very key issue, our spending on security, no matter what anybody says, is quite abysmal. You look at the budget of the police, it's nothing to write home about. And that's just the budget. You're not even sure when it comes to releases that even up to 50% of the money budgeted for the police, for instance, is released. We had the DEJI complain about that in the previous budget, the police did not get up to 50% of the funds budgeted for it, even though the original budget itself is very small. So we're definitely not spending what we should on our security, as if we seem to be taking security for granted, even with the huge security challenge we face.
It's unfortunate. You see, there's a group of people in Nigeria right now that have gone through all of this unfortunate training in one agency or the other. There are people that took it up on themselves to go through security professionalism. They were neither in any agency. And all of these people have taken over the private security space in Nigeria. And we have formed a group called the Association of Licensed Private Security Practitioners, which is partnering fully with the Civil Defense Corps and the Ministry of the Interior to manage the private security space. So right now, there are people going for bodyguard training. There are people going for forensic training. There are people going for cyber security training. There are people going for professional perimeter control, physical security training. And all of these people are in the private space. Now, if you want to achieve anything in a country, you must marry the relationship of the agencies and the private security space. Because the private security space have some that were in the agencies before, have those that were not in agencies, but they are grounded and schooled in private security practice. So you cannot, peradventure, enter my perimeter if I have a private security there. You need a police warrant, you need this, you need that. But what if you have correlation with the chief of security or the agency that is providing private security duties for such and such places? They could give you enough intelligence. There was a time that we were invited by the DSS to come and discuss some of all these things. And the agency, the Association of Licensed Private Security Practitioners, it covers the whole country. And this is a drop-off, where you just drop off and pick up. Any information you need, you can drop off with the national body. The national body will correlate with the bodies on the ground, especially in the active area where you need such intelligence or backup. So I think going forward, they should look properly at utilizing the veterans. They should look properly at utilizing the private security practitioners. In all the fields, there are experts in forensics. There are experts in cybercrime. So the agencies that lack funding, they will be better helped if they liaise with the private security, because we can bring in...
The point is, should they lack funding, especially when it comes to security? Should they lack funding?
There was something we opinionated when this government came into power. We said, fund the security, fund the education, fund the health sector. Just fund the health sector, because we don't want to talk about power. People are already producing their own power. Okay? So if you can fund security, I tell you, I think, was it custom? I just read that custom want to recruit, was it 3,000 or so people? I can't get the figure right. The police too are trying to recruit.
About 10,000.
If you put enough fund there, I'm telling you, you in a school start, even an OND holder will not be able to get those recruitment.
The
because
reason
graduates will come out.
The reason why funding is very important is because, it's common to hear Nigerians say, for instance, or Nigerians give an example of the United States, the way the police functions there, how the police is able to crack cases, how the police responds, and how the police is so effective. But nobody tries to do a comparative analysis of the kind of funding, for instance, the police in such countries get with what the police gets here. It's because what the police gets here, it's basically nothing to write home about. And, you know, the policing you get in your country is basically dependent on what you pay for.
What you pay for.
So you want to get the services of what is offered in the United States, for instance, when you are not paying for that. So
it's a challenge.
It's a huge
challenge, because I'm also going to use this opportunity to say that you can remember many years ago when I was in the army, there was an international shooting competition in DEJI in Kaduna State, and we were there with all these international guys. Actually, we saw that we have the capability and all of that, but you can imagine where a soldier said he's taking permission, and the American guy said, for what? He said he wants to go and check his money to pay for his children's school fees. He said, oh, is that your business? And it was like, we pay our children's school fees. You know, so how do you concentrate? You know, so look at the police. If we are talking about the military, I don't want to even say about the military. Why? Because the military need the police too. If the police can police the space, then the military only comes when there's disaster, we come and help, or perimeter attacks, we come and help at the border and all of that. So I think we should look at legal content in their training curriculum from the NBA. The NBA should go for that. We should look at all other private necessities. The private security space should be involved in that. You know, we should look at pushing money into their accommodation, their health, and their insurance. That will help, because when you lose any of them, they know that their children will be taken care of.
You're absolutely correct. Thank you very much, sir, for coming on the program. Roy Okedieve, a security consultant and, of course, a retired military officer. Thank you very much for your time.
Pleasure.
Well, that's it on the program. But if you want to watch it again, it's very simple. Just go to our website. You'll find this program and lots more there. And the website address is www.tv360nigeria.com. And, of course, you can follow the conversation on our various social media handles. So thank you very much for watching. I am DEJI. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.